to have me, to have you talking as well. This is a Freshly Pressed. Welcome along to the journey with us. It's an interactive session, as it always is. So we're looking forward to you coming through to share your thoughts with us, your opinions, your feelings, your takes on the stories that we will be discussing this morning. And you can do that by sending your messages in on WhatsApp. Yes, 0809 444 0981. 0809 4440981. That is the WhatsApp number. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can catch us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Once again, welcome along to the show. Joining me, as always, are my analysts for the morning to take a look at the stories and, of course, give the analysis and perspective as well. Mr. C and AB Bozimo are in. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Great to have you in.
Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Sir Ayo, and good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there. Let's make this a memorable Monday.
Morning, Aya. Good morning, AB. Good morning, Lagos. Let's get rolling.
Yep, let's get rolling. And of course, a number of things have to be discussed this morning. Education is on the front burner once again. And I'm going to be starting in the vanguard this morning, Mr. C. This I'm bringing squarely to your doorstep. Now, the presidency has charged Nigerian youths to do away with the notion that school is a scam, urging them to explore initiatives and programs put in place by President Bola Tinubu to promote education, youth empowerment, and leadership development as well. Now, the senior special assistant SSA to the president on citizenship and leadership, that's Miss Risola Abiola, gave the charge while speaking at the Mating Next Generation engagement at the Coronation Hall in Kano. Well, I mean, we've heard this refrain so many times. It's even in a popular song about school, school being a scam and so on and so forth. And she has said that youth need to do away with that notion that school is not a scam. Explore the initiatives that are available, that have been put in place by this administration. Mr. C.
Okay, thank you very much, Aya. So this is part of a project this administration tags the Next Generation project. And the first stop was in Kano, and it's also scheduled to take place in the Damawa, Niger, Cross River, Abia, and Ogun states. Now, at the first stop in Kano, we had an aide to the current president saying that school is not a scam, and the Nigerian youth, especially those at the secondary school level, should take their education seriously and try to make the best of what they're being given. Now, it's instructive to note this, right? Everyone needs to be educated. Show me a country that is developed, and I'll show you a country that has educated citizens. Now, education isn't merely being located within the four walls of a school. It's also having your mind educated. So you might not have gone to school, but you are educated because you can think logically, you can process information, you can process facts. Now, it's instructive that this administration is suggesting that school is not a scam. When we look at their attitude towards paying the salaries of those who are entrusted with running the schools, teaching the students, it's a very poor record. We have two unions starting a strike today, and they are related to our tertiary institutions because they've not had the salaries paid in the last 4 months. You then look at what portion of the budget has been allocated to education, say within the last 10 years, because the APC has been in power for the last 10 years. When you look at that, you can't match the rhetoric with the action on the ground. So in spite of what they're saying, people will go to school because they need to develop themselves. They need to create a better future for themselves. But if it is based on what the government is saying, this current government is saying, it's hard to match what they're saying with what is on the ground. Where are the jobs for people who finish from university, who finish a National Youth Service Corps program and are looking for work? Where is that work? We've seen how many businesses have shut down in the last 15 to 17 months. We know how many more are really, really struggling. Even the president himself has admitted in his last three addresses to Nigerians that there is indeed extreme hardship in the country currently. So she made reference to the NEL Fund, the scholarship program. How many people, how many students does that program cater to? Remember, students in private universities are not eligible to access the loan, the education loan program, which in itself begs the point, why can't they access it? Are they not Nigerians? Are some Nigerians more Nigerian than others? So it's a really big question. So one, how many people can it absorb? Now, for the millions of people who pass the university matriculation exams every year, but cannot get into a university, cannot get into a polytechnic, cannot get into a college of education, what happens to them? So yes, you say school is not a scam. And when we match it with the number of arrests made by the EFCC, especially when they're parading young Nigerians alleged to be involved in internet fraud and internet scams, you then find that there is a worrying increase or uptick in the number of Nigerians who are resorting to crime at any level, because the truth is they're finding it increasingly hard to survive. And if you find it increasingly hard to survive or exist lawfully or legitimately, more often than not, we have seen across the world, Nigeria not excluded, that people will resort to crime. Now, it's interesting that this administration is usually, when it comes to number of jobs created, number of businesses, they give you vague numbers like we have 75 billion now for I think 100,000 or 1 million Nigerian businesses. How many businesses have received any portion of that amount? It's not enough to tell us what you would like to do or what you intend to do. What exactly have you done? So yes, go to a school and tell them school is not a scam. Education is not a scam. And they're looking at you and they're thinking, my older brother, my older sister, my older cousin, they finished school. It's been 2, 3 years, 4 years. They've been running all over the place, applying for jobs. They haven't gotten any. So why are you telling me education school is not a scam? If I finish school and I cannot put to use the knowledge and skills I've gotten, what then is the point?
That's a very good question, Mr. C. Before I go over to AB, just to ask you this question. I mean, you mentioned something very important about a lot of young people who, for whatever reason, cannot get access to this education, and then the results to life of crime, internet fraud, and so on and so forth. Now, those individuals aside, for other young people out there right now who probably don't want to go into a life of crime, but look at the lives that those who are in office are living. Look at the lavish lifestyles they're living, and bearing in mind that a number of them are probably not as educated, but they're living affluent lifestyles. I mean, how much of that is an issue in terms of determining the sort of mindset a lot of young people have about not wanting to go to school right now? They may not decide to go into a life of crime, but I mean, they look, oh, this person is a senator, he's this and that. He didn't really go to school that much. What's the point of me going? And of course, the effect on the country in terms of development going forward.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to avoid this, but fine. I'm glad you brought it up. So they look at the political class. They look at some of the wonderful individuals who are currently in the corridors of power. And they're like, this guy didn't go to school. That guy didn't go to school. Why are you telling me to go to school? So to say the way they say it on the street, whose school help? So the truth of the matter is they're looking at you and they're like, no, school is not for me. There's no point. Some of them will tell you, I want to go into politics. I don't need to go to school to be in politics. And sadly, that has been the bane of Nigerian politics, because a lot of scallywags and riffraffs have found their way into Nigerian politics and have found their way into power. So when you're telling the average young Nigerian who's not really interested in school that, look, you need to go to school to make a better life for yourself down the line, he disagrees and tells you no, that I can make a better life for myself without having to complete school or even go to school. That school is not for everybody. So yes, the political class also hasn't helped by their own actions and by what we've seen happen over the past 20, 30 years. But sadly, this is where we are as a nation. But my advice to everyone, get some sort of education. It might not be formal education. You can get some tech skills, you can get some IT skills, but at least be educated. You should possess a mind that can process information, process facts, process logic. Very, very important.
Very, very important. AB, let's continue on this trajectory of education. Mr. C already alluded to that particular story, talking about two academic bodies that are locking down today. Now, this is coming out of the Punch newspaper. The Joint Action Committee of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions and the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities has vowed to indefinitely shut down all activities in universities across the country from today when they embark on an indefinite strike. Let me let you take it from here, AB.
Sometimes you ask yourself whether the different parts of the government know what the other part is doing. Somebody in this same government is going to talk about school is not a scam. Other people in this same government are ignoring repeatedly the calls for their needs in the same education sector to be addressed. Yes, they were talking to secondary school students, but normally the trajectory after secondary school should be to enter university or similar institutions. If those in secondary school see that those institutions that they hope to enter are shut down, are never, at peace, are in state of unrest, what encouragement is there for them to continue? I understand education has many dimensions today. You can, like Mr. C said, go bypass the formal educational university system, get some tech skills, and make a life for yourself, admittedly. But there is something about the process of education. It's not always the subject, but it is the process, how to process information, how to research, how to position yourself appropriately. So you have a situation where they have been asking for payments. The president, I don't know how, by fiat, approved 4 months out of 8 months unpaid. And since then, they have not been paid. I ask, why was it 4 months? Why not 1 month? Why not 7 months? I haven't heard an explanation that makes sense. And then since then, they have ignored them. But at the same time, I think it's over that same time period, we've bought a presidential jet. And the way things are going, with another presidential jet holed up in the United States with one kind of hole in his window, another one is very likely to be on the way. I'm hearing somebody saying, oh, so people, I heard a story to the effect that the vice president's life is in danger. I can just say, honestly, the vice president will just build a 21 billion naira house. If he sits down in that house, he will be safe. You are talking about a set of university personnel who are simply being ignored, but in their presence, billions and trillions are spent on other things. It suggests to me that the government is not prioritizing education, which goes back to the first story. How do you tell a person school is not a scam when it appears that you as a government are scamming the people running the schools?
Thank you for that submission, AB. We need to take a quick breather right now. When we come back in, we'll continue on the conversation right here on Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Keep those messages coming in on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. Don't go anywhere. Yes. I just noticed I think I made a mistake in story number 3. I copied the headline, but not the actual story itself. You see.
Number 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
I know the story.
I have the story. No, it's fine.
I also needed to read the first. Let me see. I think it was Daily Post or something.
Yeah, Daily Post. I have it open
Yeah,
here.
Daily Post. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've opened up the page. I'll just read from the page itself.
Okay. For me,
Sometimes in the morning, I'm so tired.
No,
my brain doesn't.
To me, even though the body of the story wasn't it's still connected. It's just connected to their heedlessness about ordinary people's lives. It is cars, more or less. I know the story you were referring to.
All right, let's get back in.
Okay.
Welcome back to Freshly Pressed this beautiful Monday morning on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It is 47 minutes past 7 a.m. My name is Ayokunmi, and of course, my analyst this morning, AB and AB, AB Bozimo and Mr. C are still in, taking a look at the stories and giving their analysis as well. I almost got you guys mixed up there, but no, I got myself in a good time. You out there listening to us, you can come through with your thoughts by sharing them on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can catch us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Francis from or just says, CIAY, the federal government should just calculate the total amount salary paid to NYSC and other O-level graduates so they can use to start up a small business. School not scam if it's not a medical related program. That's your take, Francis. King Joe says, Mr. C, I agree with you that educated citizens mean a developed country. The issue here is in Nigeria is Nigerians are educated, but mostly the uneducated are ruling us. All right, thank you for sharing your thoughts there. Fabian from Ekwe says, good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, young people nowadays do not have many educated and wealthy people to look up to. The actions of our political class, many of whom just have a school leaving certificate, and the government's apathy to university lecturers, staff, and teachers, including the dumping of unity schools, will make our children and youth consider other options. Michael Jackson's song, They Really Don't Care About Us, is apt. All right, thank you for sharing your thoughts there with us, Fabian. All right, let's get back into the stories, Mr. C, and I'm coming back to you with this one. And this is something that AB already alluded to in his submission from earlier. They're taking this out of the Daily Post. Now, the Speaker of the Borno State House of Assembly, Abdul Karim Lawan, has claimed that the life of Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima is at risk due to the faulty presidential aircraft that he travels with. Now, Shettima had to cancel his trip to the Commonwealth Summit in Samoa following an incident at an airport in New York in the United States. Now, the presidency confirmed that a quote-unquote foreign object hit his plane during a stopover at JFK Airport in New York. Now, some parts of the aircraft, including the windscreen of the cockpit, were damaged in the incident. Now, he's more or less saying here that the Nigerian government needs to purchase a new jet for the vice president. But, Mr. C, I thought we had a number of aircraft in the presidential fleet. Why do we need to get another for the vice president? Or I'm trying to balance things out. President gets one, vice president gets one, something like that.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. There's so many things to take away from this story. So the first part is you're ostensibly on a trip to Samoa for an official summit, right? The first plane you get into supposedly has a problem because there's no evidence that plane was actually damaged. We must remember that the plane landed at JFK, the JFK airport in New York. That is one of the busiest airports in the world. And we were talking about this before the show started. How is it that out of all the planes that land and take off every hour, it's only the VP's plane that was supposedly damaged? How is that remotely possible? Now, you were being sent on an official assignment. You terminate the journey halfway, and then you say you're not going again. How about the Esther code that has been paid? Will that be refunded because you did not complete the trip? In fact, you never arrived at the destination. And that goes along to everyone accompanying him on that trip. Will they return the Esther codes and allowances that have been given to them? Your guess is as good as mine.
Maybe they need to pay for emotional damage.
Emotional damage, okay, that's fine. Now, why does this story sound familiar? This was the same set of facts that were used to bring in the first presidential jet. Or the previous jet the president traveled in had a problem, blah, 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 boom, we're presented with a new plane. I am pretty certain that within the next 3 to 4 weeks, the VP will have his plane. There will be a plane for him, and we'll be told that his life is very important, that we cannot be preparing for a state burial. We must ensure that he's able to travel from point A to point B in safety. Now, with the arrival of the new Air Force One, which the current president uses, there are 6 other planes in the presidential air fleet. Now, excluding this one that they claim is damaged, right? The 5 other aircraft. Who is using those aircraft? Where are those aircraft currently stationed or parked? So why is talk of a new aircraft coming up? There's that. Then for the Speaker of Borno State, right, of the Borno State House of Assembly, it's really important, or it's really interesting how he shows us the way his mind works. This is Borno that was devastated by a flood recently where hundreds of people lost their lives, and our thoughts continue to go out to them. Properties, a lot of properties worth billions of naira were lost. I'm not sure he's finished thinking about them, assuming he started. He's concerned about a number 2 citizen who really has no issues in life. And it's truly shocking that he cannot read the room. He cannot see that Nigeria is currently in possibly its worst economic crisis since it became an independent country. And he's insisting a new jet be bought. A new jet be bought from where? With what money, Mr. Speaker? This is extremely insensitive of you. You are not reading the room. And you are insisting that despite the myriad of problems Nigerians are facing on a daily basis, the priority right now is to buy a new jet for the number 2 citizen. We have 2 industrial unions that have started a strike today. ASU is still on a warning strike or some other strike. The NME still has unresolved issues with the government. People are still reeling from the economic shocks of the policies that have been rolled out. You haven't finished sorting them out. If a new jet is brought into this country, which I believe will happen, it will just show again the increasing disconnect between the political elite and the people they are supposedly governing or ruling. And that is why the trust deficit will continue to grow. There is really no space for a new jet, but Nigeria being Nigeria, where the impossible happens, do not be surprised an Air Force 2, a new Air Force 2 will land in the country.
I just want to add that if a windscreen is spoiled, aviation is so precise that I am willing to bet that an exact replacement for that entire windscreen can be procured and replace the spoiled one. You don't have to replace the entire jet when you can replace the entire windscreen. But who am I? I'm not in politics. My life is not important. Nobody's going to do state burial for me.
Abi, you are speaking very logically. You're speaking like a reasonable Nigerian. But they're working from the answer backwards. They already know what they want to do.
I know. So, I just want to put it out there. Of course, I know.
Sadly.
Let's take some messages. Papi says, good morning. AB, the National Assembly is already asking for a new plane for the vice president. Ajay Oluniwa says, imagine telling young people to brace up for education, and yet the educational system is in complete rot. God help us. This is a message from Emmanuel, and he says, the government clearly has no plans for education. How can one explain the unpaid salaries of ASU members for several months? King Joe says, we will get an aircraft for the vice president as we got for the president, and we'll get ready for buying also for the Senate president deputy as well. This is Nigeria. Ali says, and he's referring to you, Mr. He says, he cannot believe your take on this matter. Now, he says, imagine it was you on that plane and someone on a program said this, disregarding whatever the situation was on that plane. Safety is paramount, whether or not billions were put on that trip. Let's show empathy regardless of status, please.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in. I'm sorry. That is extremely ridiculous and preposterous. There is no report or any indication that happened mid-flight or in-flight.
Exactly.
Every report suggests that it happened while the plane was on the ground. So safety was not an issue in flight. 2, what happened to taking another plane and continuing the journey? Let's be serious in this country for once.
All right, AB. Let's jump into another story here. This is coming out of the Vanguard, talking about health-related matters. I mean, this kind of ties into everything we've been talking about. This is something that is not new to us, but the Vanguard did a report on this, I guess, to bring this back into our consciousness. And it says the trend of Nigerians seeking greener pastures abroad, often referred to as Japa, has become a pervasive trend. Now, it's no longer news that the mass exodus has had far-reaching implications across various sectors. And of course, we know the healthcare system is definitely very, very hard hit now. This is because the departure of skilled healthcare professionals, particularly doctors, has left a gaping hole in Nigeria's already strained medical infrastructure. I mean, looking at where we are right now, in Lagos, for example, a doctor sees over 100 patients a day. You know, that's even before the emergence or the increase in the level of the Japa syndrome. Now, just imagine what that is right now. It is such a terrible thing to think about. Ibi, your thoughts?
The most poignant statement in the story was when they interviewed one doctor who said she's a young pediatrician. She left for the US. She admits it was a difficult decision for her, but the sentence she said, I love my country and my patients, but the challenges were overwhelming. The long hours, the lack of resources made it nearly impossible to provide the level of care I wanted to give. It's very easy when you hear about Japa, oh, they're going for better salaries, they're going for better conditions, which may be true. But people don't understand to become a doctor is not merely like any other profession. One, it is life and death. Two, it is a state of permanent service and continuous education. Being a doctor, honestly, is unlike any other thing. As an architect, if you heard news that a building that I designed collapsed right now, there are two questions I would ask. Is anybody hurt? If the answer is yes, it becomes a medical emergency. If the answer is no, we can go tomorrow and check what happened, metaphorically. So medicine is about people who want to put their lives at the disposal of everybody. And you find that people flying all these jets around the world to other places to go and get healthcare are not thinking about the burden they are putting on the doctors. Doctors are now getting to a point where they are overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, you tend to make mistakes you might regret personally and professionally. We are all suffering from this. And that you have leaders of various bodies talking about buying new jets and buying. Listen, let's stop being unserious as a country. Prioritize what matters. It's too easy to run Nigeria. Put some things in place. You people can fly your jet, but let the rest of us live on the ground in a sane and safe atmosphere. We're not trying to fly jet with you, but let us at least see our doctors and let us go to school so that we don't feel it's a scam. Waiting.
Right. All right, let me round up with messages. Michael says, I wouldn't say education is a scam. I would rather say academic education in Nigeria is. Education is in different facets. Something as simplistic as proper use of a microphone requires education. So education in itself is never a scam. And this one from Tony from Marine Beach. I want to believe this is tongue-in-cheek here from you, Tony. It says the plane indeed was damaged, had an accident in the air, and the windscreen got shattered. When your car windscreen gets shattered, what do? You change your car, of course. The VP's plane windscreen is damaged, therefore he needs a new jet. QED. The siege continues. All right. Dami.
Uh-oh. Connection.
Yeah.
I further says how we went from an FOD damage on an aircraft to a new presidential jet is a reminder of the lack of education amongst our political leaders. Let me squeeze just one more in. Fabian says, as a fellow doctor, I fully agree with the pediatrician. It's really frustrating right now, and no day passes when I don't ask myself, why am I still here? Till the president and leaders fully assess healthcare here, or fully access healthcare here, I don't think this will change. All right, thank you for sharing your thoughts there, Fabian, and thank you all for your messages, and thank you so much, AB and Mr. C, for joining me this morning. Always a great time having you on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, but the stories are not a pleasure. Sometimes you just weep for Nigeria. And please, listener, they're educated enough to know what is right and wrong. They choose to do what is preposterous and wrong. It's not a lack of education that our politicians are suffering from. They know what's right. They choose to do what's wrong. That's my assertion, not the station.
Okay.
All right, Mr. C.
Thanks for having me on the show. And Nigerians, just ignore the distractions, the multiple distractions. Just focus on what it is you're doing. Focus on being better versions of yourselves. And as we each do the necessary in our little corners, the multiplier, the general multiplier will then benefit the nation. Ignore the distractions, the comedians and the circus, and just do what you have to do. Have a fruitful and rewarding week ahead. Take care.
Amen.
All right, thank you for the words on Marble, Mr. C. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Sports will be coming up at 8:15 as we take a walk into the locker room.